Back on TYT Sports, Jason and Francis here. We're going to talk about a Reddit thread that we saw, and we've done a similar clip to this in the past. It had to do with what is the most unpredictable sport, and the one that we found from it, and the comment section relatively agreed with it, also did pretty well, was that the NFL was one of the least predictable sports, and we say that not on a game-to-game basis. We're going to talk about randomness in sports, but the NFL, in terms of the predictability, you know, for all the other American sports, the Cavs, the Warriors, the Thunder, the Clippers, Spurs, those 5 teams probably going to win it this year. 5 teams could win it. That's pretty much it. We talked about it for baseball and world football. We know it's Barcelona and Real Madrid. There's a 5 to 6 teams year in and year out. Leicester City last year was a great example of the unpredictability that it can happen in certain leagues. But in terms of randomness, and that's on a game-to-game basis, we're going to weigh out the 5 sports we talk about most here. I guess you can also include one that we didn't really talk about before the show would be MMA and boxing, because there's a degree of randomness. If a punch lands the right way, Jose Aldo, Conor McGregor, bit random, not expected at least. But we're going to talk. Let's start with the NFL, because in the Monday Night Football game that happened most recently, this clip might be going up a week later. So in the Bears versus Vikings game, the Vikings missed Stephon Diggs on a pretty much open, would have been a score, drops the pass. Same thing happened in the Raiders game in Week 8 on Sunday. Amari Cooper has only dropped 1 pass all season, one of the most reliable receivers, and it just falls through his hands. Would have been 1st and goal on the 5 instead of 2nd and 10 from the 45. There's a degree of randomness that changes the whole game plan. And what we've found so far is that in NFL and World Association Football, World Football, where points, goals are hard to come by, randomness has the greatest impact. Hockey, too.
I have a different interpretation of what I think randomness means. Like that example you mentioned, I watched that game. That's a player error for me. That's an error of judgment.
It's not random for him to drop it?
It's not random. Like, yeah, it's random if he drops it, right? Because you expect a player at that level to miss it, right? But the same thing you could say is it's random if Steph Curry doesn't make three three-point shots in a row. But you wouldn't say that basketball is full of randomness. You just be like, he's maybe having an off day. That's not random for me. That's just like, it happens in sports. Not everyone can be on point all the time. When I think of random, it's outside factors that cannot be controlled within the means of the game.
Like a deflection?
So like a deflection in world football. A shot that you might think is going nowhere near the goal takes a deflection and goes into the bottom corner and completely changes the face of the game. The same thing can happen in the NFL, where maybe you throw it and it takes a random deflection off the back of someone's helmet or falls and someone catches for an interception. But I don't see that happening as much as what I see in world football. Outside factors playing a crucial role in the outcome of the game is what I feel is random. You mentioned a good point about basketball. Like, there's things that happen in basketball that are very strange that sometimes you can't explain. But the thing about basketball is it's such a high-scoring game that I feel that you have the opportunity to maybe make it back.
Yes.
I feel like you can get points back.
Do.
World football, you have a deflection scored. You could be pummeling a team non-stop. And this is my bias for the sport. I'm trying to keep an open mind. You have someone pummeling the team non-stop, like Chelsea used to do in the past, would sit in, observe the pressure, and maybe they have a deflected goal that goes in. The game's completely changed. They now just sit in, defend, no problem. That completely changes the outcome of the game. But it might not always just be a deflection. There's other moments in games, like, for instance, a penalty shootout has a very unique outlook when it comes to what can happen randomly, is because you can prepare yourself for it, but it's that pressure situation, that mental fight back and forth, which can come down to player errors, I mentioned with NFL. But maybe there's a slip. Maybe there's, like, we see John Terry slip in the Champions League final against Manchester United. We see Steven Gerrard slip on the park. These things kind of come into play. So it's a difficult conversation to have. But if I'm going to categorize one more random than the other, then I'm looking at outside factors that could play an influence rather than just maybe a player slipping up once in a while.
So here's the definition of random, all right?
Oh, hit me.
Made, done, happening, or chosen without method or conscientious decision. Odd, unusual, or unexpected. And you see it, by the way, because it's funny. I wish we can run through, if we had the time or the team, like a John Oliver-like segment, like in Now This, when he does, and he goes, here's all the broadcasters using the word, that was unexpected in a season. And I'm sure it pops up a lot more. And now that we're mentioning it, I'm sure we're going to see, I'm going to see it tonight, watching NBA broadcasts, watching Clippers games with, oh my, when he goes, that was unexpected. So, and who knows if those in world football know who the Clippers broadcaster is, because I'm just assuming that they watch. No, I'm saying those in England. must know who Ralph Lawler is. Oh, me, oh
course I
my,
do.
Francis.
Ralph?
I love him,
No.
man. So, without conscious decision, I feel like in the case of drop passes, in the case of a missed layup, their decision is to make the layup.
Yep.
If it doesn't go in, it is still human error. The reason why baseball, I don't think, has a degree of randomness is because it's kind of part of the glossary of words. A bad hop. That ball took a bad hop.
Yeah.
Is a routine occurrence. Like the Steve Bartman thing with the Cubs, which has been the most relevant talking point for whatever reason during the World Series for the last 10 years at least. It was, I don't think it was like random. The guy had his headphones on and he's like, I'm going to catch that ball. Like, it wasn't random, but it created a whole mess of havoc.
I remember that situation.
It's like another human-made error. So I think the sport with the most randomness and definitely the most effect of a random occurrence is world football, a penalty shootout specifically, or a deflection. And in addition to that, the NFL, because if it's a 4th and goal in a game-winning situation, if a 4th and goal in the first quarter, it doesn't matter, on the half-yard line, and they go to pass it, and there's a pass interference called, and you get a brand new set of downs, well, that randomness, if it was a missed call or a random call, or if a receiver slips and he makes it look like he was dragged down, well, that random act by the receiver, the unintentional act, could cause his team to get 4 more chances at scoring those points, and it's hard to come by points.
Well, the other sport you got to take into consideration is hockey as well. I know we mentioned it. It's like there's a lot of deflected pucks out there without
There's a
going
term.
into...
They call it puck luck.
Puck luck.
It's an actual term.
Especially on a surface that is so slippery where the puck files around at a ridiculous pace. There's plenty of examples where maybe it didn't come off the barrier what you expected, it didn't come off the wall, and it lands in a different area, and all of a sudden you're one-on-one with the goalkeeper. Like, these things happen.
There's a lot of weird angles in hockey because just, and players utilize that.
Of course,
The very little hockey that I watch, like when they slam it off the wall, it's like for these cool angled passes. You're like, if there's a little bunch of ice that's kind of crumpled up in that part of the wall, that puck might not go in the direction you were expecting it to go in. Hence the term puck luck.
Puck luck.
You know, a lot of deflections in that. I like the randomness in sports. The other conversation that we can have in a different clip is, does momentum exist in sports?
Absolutely.
And for some it does, for some it definitely does not. For example, baseball does not exist. Momentum does not exist. No. There's a phrase.
The limit does not exist.
What is that from?
Mean Girls.
Mean Girls.
The limit does not exist. The limit does not exist.
Our new state champions, the North Shore Mathletes.
Leave us your other interesting debate topics that include all sports in the comment section below. We'll try to get to more of them as we head into Thanksgiving, Christmas. Thanksgiving for those in Europe is great.
It's the best. It's my best adopted holiday.